Okay, so let's start with StringBuffer and StringBuilder class. Then we will move to custom immutable class. Like if we want to create our own custom class as an immutable class, then how we can do that. Okay, then the toString method and string tokenizer class we will discuss today. So we have another class that we are going to discuss today, StringBuffer and StringBuilder. So these are the classes basically similar to string class like we have seen, but there is some difference. There are small differences that we will discuss today. So first of all, these both the classes are mutable. When we were discussing the string, so string class was immutable. That means if we modify the object of a string class, we will get a new object. All right, we cannot modify a string object, and if we do so, then new object will be created. Okay, now we have two other classes, StringBuffer and StringBuilder. Those are mutable. One second, guys. Hello. So we have two other classes, StringBuffer and StringBuilder. So these are mutable classes. Then why there are two? Like if we have StringBuilder and StringBuffer, then what exactly the need? So when we will learn multi-threading, we will learn a concept called synchronization. Okay, so then the difference will come into picture. Let me just brief you about both of the classes. We have the string builder. So this is the string builder class. And then we have one more class, that is string buffer. Sorry. So you can see here in this, like when we are talking about string buffer class, so all the methods here are synchronized. So what exactly synchronization is, we will learn when we will be learning multi-threading. So for now, you can just take a note like what synchronization is. So synchronization is a process of, we can say, locking of an object so that only one thread can work at a time. So when we will be working in multi-threaded environment, so there will be multiple thread working on a single object. So let's say that that object belongs to string buffer class. This is doing some addition, or let me say concatenation. This is doing some replace at the same time. in the string buffer object. So what will happen if both work simultaneously? The end result would be inconsistent, isn't it? Like, this is, we have a string hello, and this thread, let me call it t1 and this is t2. It is doing hello plus hi, like it is appending or concatenating hi into this. So we got hi. At the same time, what this is doing, this t2 thread is doing replace. It is replacing ll with, let's say, xx, HEXXOHI, something like this. So what will happen, like we cannot predict the end result. It would be this or like this. Why? Because we are not sure when this will be completed and when this one will be completed. So in this case, what will happen? The end result would be inconsistent. We cannot make a prediction like what is the end result would be. Okay, so in that case, what we can do is we can make the object as synchronized. So when an object is synchronized, so what will happen in that case? At a time, one thread can work. So for example, this thread came to work and he got the access of that object. So it will take a lock on that object, and rest of the thread will wait till this thread complete its execution or its task. So this thread was coming for concatenation, so this will do hello and hi. After that, it will release the lock. That means this object is available for other thread, then other thread can work on this object. So you got the basic idea, like what is synchronization. We'll discuss in more detail when we will learn thread. Let me know yes or no. So when we say synchronization, means only one thread can work at a time on a given object. Clear? Okay. So string buffer is a class which is synchronized. And when we say string builder, you can see all the methods are non-synchronized. So now we can say when we want our object mutable, like we can modify the object, we can go with both of these classes. And when we will go for string buffer and when we will go for string builder. So like if we are working in a single threaded application where only one thread is there, then we should go for string builder, because we know there would be only one thread working at a time in single threaded application. But whenever we have multi-threaded application, then we should use a string buffer. Getting my point? This is for multi-threaded application. We'll discuss multi-threading in detail in coming days. And this is for single threaded application. Most of the methods like we have seen in string class are there in string buffer class. So let me start working with the string buffer class. String buffer, we can create an object like this. String buffer sb is equals to new string buffer. There are 4 constructors. You can see string buffer which takes a char sequence object, string buffer which takes int capacity, and the another one we have is string buffer which takes a string. Okay, now you might be wondering what is this char sequence. If we go inside this method, let me just open, just use it, and we'll go back inside our string buffer class. and we'll look for this particular constructor, string buffer char sequence. So you can see this is interface, right? Char sequence. In this we have method called length, caret, subsequence, toString, chars, code points. And if we go further inside string class, so you can see our string class implements this particular interface. So whenever we have to make object with the help of char sequence, that means we can use a string. We are here in person class, so I can take a string like this, hello, right? In this way we can create the object of string class. Now what if we want to print it? So let me just print it once. SB, we are getting hello. Now let's look at the methods. What are the different methods we have? SB dot capacity returns the current capacity. The capacity is amount of storage available for newly inserted characters beyond which an allocation will occur. So it will tell us the capacity for this string buffer, like how many characters can be stored. So we can see we are getting 21. Let's say if we have 21 characters, let's say 4, then 4, 4, 4, and 4. So 25 is there. Then the capacity is 41. So what exactly this capacity is? When we are saying string SB equals to new string buffer new string buffer, like this. I'm not taking any parameter here. Let me just do one thing. Let me just clear it once. Control X. So there is no character now. And when we see, we are getting a capacity which is 16. Means the default capacity is 16. 0 to 15 indexes are there to store characters. Like we are going to use this particular word. So it will be stored on first 5 um, indexes. When hello was there, like, right, and we were getting 21, so that means it's adding the value 21, right? And let's say we have 5 more characters. You can see we are getting 26. Now what if we have 5 more characters? Sorry, we are getting 31. So total character are 15. Now let's say one more is there, 16, and then 17. 16 are there. The initial capacity was 16, and we are getting 32. Now if I say add one more, then you can see we are getting 33, 34. Yeah, this is the logic basically. So what is the string we are passing? Length plus 16. So if we go back and see, we are passing how many characters? 18. Let me just remove it to 4, and the length is 4 plus 16. So you got like what is the use of the capacity? It will tells us the capacity, current capacity. The capacity is amount of storage available for newly inserted characters beyond which an allocation will occur. Next is, we don't really use this string capacity method. There are other methods like we will go char@, so it's similar like we have in string. Then we have equals and hash code. Index of is the same like we have in string. Last index of. Then we have length. This is again similar to the string class, like it will tells us the length of the string. Substring again same as your string class. Okay, let me just do one thing. What I'm doing here, sb dot substring hello, how are you? Then I'm saying start from 2 and print sb. Can you guess the answer?
It start from first TL to end of the string.
20. Why 20? Prasanti? So let me just run it once. And you can see we are getting the entire string, but we are supposed to get this particular string. Now, how we can get this? We need to do sb is equals to this. Okay, one more thing that is very important. Like when we say substring, it returns a string. Can you see? We are getting a compilation error. Type mismatch. Cannot convert from string to string buffer. That means this string substring method giving us a string. Then how we can keep it in SB? That is a string buffer object. We can just do one thing. We can call the toString method of this object like this. Now what is the error? Oh, sorry. It was already string. Why we are calling substring? What we need to do is we need to pass this into a string buffer object. Then only we can use. And it should be new here. So now we are getting LLO, like we have escaped 2 characters, like we are saying start from second index. So when we say second, it would be third index, like index starts from 0. Okay. Now next we have sb dot append. This method was not there in string class. So let me just use this one here, sb dot append. And what I am appending here, I am appending just a character. Let's say x. I'm saying sp dot append x, and just do one thing. Whatever the content in sp, print that. So you can see what it is doing. It's concatenating that corresponding value that we are passing into the object of string buffer. Any doubt in this?
Then why it is taken directly here? Before we converted into string buffer object, right? String to string buffer, then we printed, right? But here we are not converting.
So what it does basically, when we say string buffer dot append, it appends the content into the existing object. Like if we go back and check what it does, so you can see we are getting string buffer object in return. When we were working on substring, so substring was returning us a string object. You can see here, right? Now I got one more question, like what is the difference between string and string buffer? Yes, so string is immutable class and string buffer is mutable. Like we can modify its object. Getting my point? String buffer is mutable. That means we can modify the object. Like if you go back in string class, for example, let me just take a string s is equals to hello. Just do one thing, print s dot hash code. So right now we are getting this particular hash code, and what I'm doing now is I'm modifying this object s plus hi, and again I'm checking the hash code. If this is the different object, then hash code should be different, right?
No.
Why?
In string class, that first one will go to garbage collector and then that address is assigned to whatever we are giving next one.
Yeah, my concern is like that was the object we have created, and there was some hash code associated with this. But when we are modifying, we can see we are getting a new hash code. Let's try to do the same thing with string buffer object. We have this. After appending, we are checking sb dot hash code, and before we are checking sb dot hash code, and let me just remove it. You can see we are getting the same hash code, even we have modified the object. Can you see it?
Yes.
That means we can see, let's understand this with the simple example. This is the constant pool. Okay, now let's say we have stored hello here. Okay, let me just use a less space, for example, and one reference, that is s, assigned or reverted back to this s variable when we were saying string s is equals to hello. So this object was created inside constant pool, inside the heap, and one reference was returned back to this s. Let's say this is at location 1. This is not exactly the location, I am talking about the hash code thing. Okay, now when I say s is equals to uh, s plus hi, So what is happening? A new object is getting created, like hello hi, and that is returned back to this, and this particular link will be disconnected. That means the object hello was there will be eligible for garbage collection, like you were telling, Mamta. But now you can see this is not the same object. Earlier we was having hello. Now what we have is hello hi. So this is altogether a new object when we are talking about string. So we can say string is immutable. Like when we try to modify an object, we got a new object. But when we are talking about string buffer, so this is heap. We got hello here, for example, and we have an object called sp, which is referring to this object inside the heap. When I said sb dot append x, so what it did, it came here and it appended x here in the same object. Getting my point? New object not yet get created. The same object has been modified. Getting this? That's why string buffer called as mutable. Does it make sense, guys? Let me know in case you have any doubt. Or we can proceed. All good so far? Okay, so this append method is not there in string class. We do have this append only in this string buffer. Now we do have another methods. Let me just work with them. Like we have sb dot append. We have seen, so append is basically a overloaded method. Like you can pass boolean, characters array, char sequence, double. You can see there are a number of implementation for this append method. Now we have, like, which we have used, like we have a method called reverse. So what it does, it will reverse the given string. This method is not there in string class. So please note a question you have to try, like how you will reverse a string. Using string buffer, we can just directly convert that object or that string using the reverse method, like we are getting here. Getting my point? But if we have a string and we want to reverse that, how you will do that? So you can note down a question like write a program write a program that will check if a given string entered by user is palindrome. Like we have seen numbers 1 to 1, right? 1 0 0 0 1, something like this. Now we have a string called, let's say, madam. We can read in both the direction, we will get the same answer. So we can say this is a palindrome string. So you need to write a program that will check basically if a given string is palindrome or not. So to check a string whether it is palindrome or not, what you need to do is you first need to reverse that string. Let's say we have apple, for example, and when we reverse it, it becomes ELPPA, right? So we can say this is not a palindrome string. But if we reverse this one, we will got like MADAM. Just ignore the case, like we are not concerned with this capital M or um, small m. But if we read it from this direction, from right to left, we will got the same answer. So we can say this is a palindrome string. You need to try this. Okay, so reverse method is there in string buffer class. Substring we have seen. We have insert, but I haven't used it so far. And insert is also a overloaded method. So we can see what it does. Insert the string representation of a Boolean argument into this sequence. Okay, so if we want to insert something inside a string, we can do that using this insert method. So for example, this how is not there. Let me just run it once. So we are getting hello, are you? Now, if I want to insert a particular word or a character or a boolean, we can go with the insert method. We can tell the offset like from where you need to start. So for example, if I say sb dot insert, I'm saying after after 5 characters or fifth index, just start that what you need to insert. Let me just use with boolean. I'm saying add true, and let's see what happens. So you can see we have added true. Like similarly, we can add a string because this is an overloaded method. So if you go back and do control space, you can see there are different definitions available for this method. Like you can insert a boolean, a character, right? Okay, what if I say start from 0? So in this case, that should be override. No, it's not getting override. It's shifting the characters in forward direction. When I'm saying 0, that means start inserting from 0. You can see. So what it does, it will shift all the characters in the forward direction. Okay. So this is basically all about your string class. So basically you should remember like what is the difference between string and string buffer. String buffer is synchronized and it's mutable. And when we say string is non-synchronized. Also, string class is immutable. So these are the two differences. And if you go and Google it, you will find more differences as well. So basic differences are these two. String buffer is synchronized and mutable. String class is immutable and non-synchronized. Similarly, we have string builder class. Let me just quickly go through with string builder as well. String builder. So here almost all the methods we have seen in string buffer class are there. So let me just show you one by one. Like we have append, Then we have char at capacity, char's code point, delete ensure capacity equals as code index of insert last index of length reverse replace substring to string trim to size. So this is looking some fancy method. Let me see what it does. Attempt to reduce storage used for character sequence if the buffer is larger than necessary to hold its current sequence of characters, then it may be resized to become more space efficient. Calling this method may but not required to affect the value written by a subsequent call to the capacity method. I'm sorry, I haven't used it. So, and the definition is itself confusing, like what it does. In every class, you will see like wait and like notify all. So these are the methods will come into picture when we will learn thread, because these are the methods available in object class. Okay, so most of the methods we have in string buffer class are same or similar to string builder class. But again, when we talk about the difference, so string buffer is synchronized, but string builder is not synchronized. Okay, other difference, like when to use string buffer and when to use string builder. When we have single threaded application, then we should use string builder, and when we have multi-threaded application, then what we should use is string buffer. Any doubt in this? Tell me, guys.
Hi Anuj.
Multiple thread in the sense?
Multiple thread in the sense, have you done multitasking, or you have ever heard about multitasking or multi-programming?
Multi-programming? Don't know. Running two or three application at a times?
Like you can see on my screen, I'm using Zoom, Eclipse, and this Microsoft Whiteboard simultaneously, right? So we can say
Okay.
this multitasking.
Yes.
So far, what we have seen in our programs, a single threaded application. What is a thread? To understand multi-threading, what we need to understand first is a thread, right? And before moving to thread, what we need to learn, what is a process. So I believe you know what is a process. Any running program we can call it's a process. Like if I go into task manager, and if I go here on processes, you can see these are the process running, because these are the programs running on my system. So these all are known as a process. Inside a process, there can be multiple paths of execution, which will be known as a thread. And when a single program or single process have multiple path of execution, that means that process or that application is multi-threaded. For example, let me just open Word. We can say this is a single process running, right? But when I start typing, let me type hello, and if I somehow do some mistake, you can see it's showing red here, right? one more thing to note, like when I'm typing, you can see this. Where is the character counter? Cannot see that. Yeah, word counter is there. Can you see here at the bottom, right? And one more thread, like which is counting your page numbers. Page number had changed. So there are separate processes running inside a program. There are separate sub process, we can say sub process. So for now you can just understand it like this. Inside a process there can be multiple processes, so these process will be known as a thread. So in Java, if we have a main method, that means a single thread is there. For example, if I just go back and check, so we have a method called thread dot current thread dot get name. It will tells us the name of the thread inside this program. So right now the thread we have in this program is main. You can see the thread name is main. But later on when we will learn multi-threading, then you will get to know, like in a program there can be multiple threads, right? You got the basic idea what is multi-threading, Mamta?
Yeah, yes, I got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, good. Don't worry, we have a separate topic and it will like take 4 or 5 classes to discuss about multi-threading. Can't we use multi-threaded in string builder? Yes, we can, but the thing is, when we will operate multiple threads, or multiple threads will work on a single string builder object, then end result won't be, uh, I'd say, reliable, or the end result would be inconsistent. So like when we say multi-threaded, let me go back again. There are 3 thread, and this is the object of string buffer, string builder, which is having the content hello, right? Now this thread came, it is saying sb dot append something. This is saying sb dot not append, let me just say insert, sb dot insert, and this is saying uh, sb dot, let's say, reverse, or even let me make it more better.
I have one question, Anuj. So
Yes, tell
now
me.
you wrote sb dot append sb dot something
Yes, yes,
some
tell me.
methods, right? So
Uh-huh.
in that case, those work on sb only, right? Like sb is equal to string builder, sb is equal to new string builder hello something. So if you work on first you wrote one method, right? How different?
So we have this object, the single object of this class, string builder, and all these threads are working on this object. What, let me name it T1, T2, and T3. Okay. T2 is saying append by, T1 is saying reverse it, T3, this is T3, let's say. T3 is saying um, insert. Insert at 0 position. Hey, so as you can see, these are looking like sequential statement, but in real time, when it will be a multi-threaded application, they will be these three lines of code or statement will be executing parallelly. Getting my point? Like does it is not like that, like it will come first and will execute this will come then after the first one, and then after that it will come. It is not like that. They will come into picture parallelly. Getting my point?
Okay.
Yeah.
So when they will run in parallel, what will happen? You cannot predict the result. What would be the end result? Or let's take a simple example. Let's say you have a joint account in your bank, right? With your, let's say, with your brother and your father, for example, and you are Mamta, for example, right? You have a joint account in some bank. Now your brother is doing some transaction. Let's say he is doing some deposit. Uh, let's say in branch A, for example. You are there. Mamta is there to check the balance, and your father is there in some B branch, for example, and your father is there for withdraw at some C branch. So when these three tasks or transaction going on same time, then can you predict what would be the end result? For example, your initial amount was 1,000. Your brother came at the branch and he deposit 1,000 more. Then it should be 2,000 when you are checking, right? And when your father withdraws and he says withdraw 2,000, then ideally he should be able, like 2000 is there, but there might be a chance like this transaction is not yet completed when you raise the request of withdraw, because all these are coming together. Getting my point? Have you seen like some sale on Amazon or Flipkart and you have faced something out of stock thing within a single minute? Have you seen some kind of scenarios, Mamta, or anybody else have
Yes,
seen?
yes, I have seen.
What happens in a single minute? There are thousands of requests comes to place a order for a particular product. Getting my point? Simultaneously, everybody got the idea like what multi-threading is. So when we say synchronization, that means where is my, oh, I think I have lost it. When we say synchronize, so what will happen in that case?
Executes one at a time.
So these, not this one, yeah. These all three methods will be synchronized. So whoever comes first, like when we say multi-threading works in simultaneous or works in parallel, so it's not really true. There are some differences, kind of nanosecond at a time. In your processor, only one thread can run. There is a state called running. At a time, there can be only one thread. So what will happen, like your brother came first for deposit, so these all the operations will keep on hold. Like you are coming, so bro is thread, Mamta is one thread, father is one thread. So he came first, then request from these two will keep on hold. Like let's complete this, then only you can do your work. Now let's say your father got the chance, then he will be able to withdraw 2000 rupees as the balance is there. Like the thread, brother thread was able to complete the transaction. Now you got a chance. Now other threads will wait, like if there are any, you will only be able to work at that time. You got it?
Hi, Anuj.
Yep.
Yeah,
If
I
three,
got it.
yeah, yes, proceed.
Yeah, I got it. But string buffer, string builder is a single threaded, right? How we will have the asynchronous here? Asynchronous means background. It will
No,
wait
no,
and
no, no,
run.
no. You haven't got my point. Sorry, you are taking a question into wrong direction. Can you come again with the question?
Yeah, here string builder is a single threaded, right here.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot, if we do also, if we do multi-threading, we will get some what I should. Yeah, here asynchronous. How it will be asynchronous? String builder. Here single threaded, right?
This
String builder is.
asynchronous and synchronous.
What is the meaning of asynchronous? Here,
Like we are not talking any UI application. Like you have placed one request, and until you are not getting a response, you will keep stuck or keep hold on that screen. This is not the thing we are discussing here. This is a different concept we are discussing. Synchronization. Synchronization
asynchronous
means
means we are running the task in background, right? After
no, no,
that
no,
finishes, it will
no.
get.
That is a different thing. We'll learn in web-based application when we will make.
Okay, that you said say, string builder is asynchronous.
Non-synchronized, I have told.
No, non-synchronized. Okay,
Yes.
that is different, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, okay, I got it.
So
I got
synchronized means only one thread will get a chance to work on.
right.
And when we say non-synchronized means multiple thread can work simultaneously on a single object.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Anybody has any other question on this?
Yeah, Anuj.
Yes, tell
Actually,
me.
if three requests came at the same time, which request
Mhm.
will be proceeded first?
When we are working with multi-threaded, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be a slight delay. Like you cannot say three requests come at the same time. There might be some difference. So what happens? Let me just try to explain. When we say thread dot start, let's say t1 dot start. I'm saying t2 dot start. I'm saying t3 dot start. I'm saying. Okay. So what happens when we say t dot thread dot start? These all three threads are eligible to run. Now it's up to thread scheduler which one he is going to pick. Uh, in Unix or operating system, you have seen something called round robin, preemptive, FCFS kind of thing, first come first serve, preemptive scheduling, round robin scheduling, right? So it depends on thread scheduler. Like which thread he is going to pick and going to run that.
Yeah, okay, actually understood. And earlier
Getting my
you
point?
showed one example in the word process, right? And we are
Yes.
typing the words count and pages count are there. Those are
Mm-hmm.
three multiple threads running at the same time, right?
Yes, yes,
So that's a multi-threading program.
yes, we can say.
Yeah.
So there will
Okay.
be, like, when we talk about multi-threading, nanosecond difference will be there
Okay.
at a
Three
time.
cannot start at a time, right?
Three cannot, we can start all the three threads at a time. They will keep ready. So we can say they are in ready state.
Yeah.
Now, might be a possibility like your thread scheduler is busy. So like we are talking about your Java program. There are hundred of other programs running on. Like you can see on my screen, there are multiple programs running. So thread scheduler or your processor is doing other task too. It's not only responsible to execute your task. Getting my point?
Yes, yes.
So when we say start, that means we are placing our threads into ready state. Like anytime thread scheduler can come and start picking up threads from this, uh, let's say, area, and will place them into running. But at a time, only one thread be there in running state. Let's say it picks T2, then T1 and T2 will be in ready state. Getting my point?
Okay. Yeah, this one is clear. But in the multi-threading program, how that scheduler will pick that threads?
It depends on OS, like which kind of OS you are using. So we cannot make any comment on this. It all depends on your thread scheduler,
Oh, okay.
which kind of scheduling technique it's using: round robin, preemptive, first come first serve. There are multiple techniques inside an operating system. All right.
So that is not unique, right?
No, it varies system to system. I mean, operating system to operating system.
Okay, then that's clear.
Okay.
Mm,
Yeah.
thank.
All right. Now we have another concept. Um, so basically, we were talking about string buffer methods, string builder methods. Sorry. So SB dot. Most of the methods are like same. Reverse is also there. We can reverse a given string like we did with string buffer. Okay, now let's do one thing. I think there is no question for string buffer and string builder, and if so, let me know. Now the next thing we have is how to create your own immutable class. And what we will be the use, like when we will be using this immutable class. So for now, you can just remember how to create an immutable class. So declare the class as final, right? Remove default constructor, setter method not allowed or won't be there inside inside the immutable class, and getter will return object not reference. So these are the 4 points you can make note when you want to make a immutable class. And this is the fixed question you will be asked in your interview, like how to create your own custom immutable class. So first point would be, let me write it again. Declare your class as final. So as of now, we haven't seen final classes. Like when we declare a class, we just say class and class name. Let me take X here. So what we can say is final class X, like this. So when you declare class, make it final. What is the purpose? We'll discuss later on. Second, there would be parameterized constructor only. And that means default won't be there. Default constructor won't be there. Third thing, setter method won't be there inside that class. Fourth, getter will return object, not reference. So these are the 4 points you need to remember. Okay. Let me quickly start creating one custom class.
Anuj, can you please explain that fourth point?
Yeah, let me just explain. So don't worry, I'm just going to do that. So for example, control N, we have a class. Inside this, let me create a class, control N class. We have a class called employee. And we have another class address. Okay. Now in employee class, we have few properties like private int imp id, that is employee id, private string emp name. And let me just take two field for now. Now let me define the constructor. So when we define a parameterized constructor, then the default one won't be there. Now let me just write setter and getter. So setter won't be there. I am just going to tell only getters. Okay. And next thing would be class. Your class should be final. Okay. Now if I say, and let me just do one more thing, let me put a hash code method here. So this is not the part of immutable class like the hash code, but just for verification purpose, I am using it here. Source and hash code and equals. So I am overriding both of those methods. Now let me just do control N test. I'm going to create a test class. Test test immutable, and we have main method here. So we have a class called employee. We want to create an object employee I'm saying employee name is, let's say, Anuj. Okay. Now, do you have any way to modify this object? If I say e1 dot has code, let me know, do you have any way to modify this e1 object? How we can modify an object? Like if we say e1 dot set name, but we don't have set name method over there. Like if we do so, you can see this is not allowed. Let me just run it once. So what we are getting is the hash code of this object. Why we have make our class final? The reason is, where is this class? Yeah. The reason is we cannot create employee class, child or subclasses to make an object of employee type, right? If it is not final, then we can create child classes of employee and then they can be treated as an employee. That's why we make our, yeah, you are right, Pravina. That's why we have make our class as final. And what is the purpose of using parameterized constructor? So that the data we want to keep in our object must be provided at the time of object creation. So for these two, I think I've discussed this one would be parameterized constructor. So reason is, like when we are going to create our object, then only we can keep the data. Later on, we cannot change it. So that is the reason for parameterized constructor. Setter are not allowed because if we keep setter, then object can be modified later on. That's why there won't be any setter. Third thing, getter will return reference, not object. So what happens, like, let me do one thing. Right now we have, okay, let me just try to modify it once. For example, person, sorry, we are in this test immutable class. And if I say e1 dot, so get employee name, but again I won't be able to set it, so let it be as it is. Now what the fourth one is, basically when we say we have private address associated with this class like this, and we do have setter and getters for this. So here you can see we are returning an address, right? So this is basically return an address object here at this point. Note the reference. That was the fourth point. Now let me do one thing. We have private int pin, for example, private string city. So for now, let's assume we do have only these to properties, source, create getters, etc. I'm not applying any uh, constraint of immutable class on address class, right? I'm just going and doing ideally, but it should be with this as well. Okay, give me one moment. Let me just do some research on it.
Actually, I just want to know one thing.
Yes, tell me.
When we have the reference also, we can do the same thing, whatever we have the object, right? If we have the reference means we'll get the object, right?
Not really, that I'm trying to explain. Just give me a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so the problem here is with this code right now, we have our class created as immutable with the final and all the things we have. Now, what if like we are saying return just this address? Okay. Now, what I am going to do is like we have an address class. Address is equals to new address I'm having, and in this we don't have any constructor, so this address class is basically mutable class. I'm setting the pin, let's say 12345 address dot set pin. Address dot set city. I'm setting Mohali, for example. And let me do one more thing. We are going to override toString method so that we can quickly test it. We have toString implemented in our employee class, and similarly I'll going I'm going to add this into our address class. Oh, source to string. Okay, now if I say E1, so whatever the information we have will be printed over here. Okay, we have employee 1, employee name. Okay, one thing is missing, which is E1 dot set address. Set address, let's say address. Now we have our complete object. Later on, what we are trying to do is E1 dot get address. I'm getting address from this and I'm trying to set city, let's say Chandigarh. Getting my point? And I'm saying let me just print E1 again. So you will see the difference, like the object has been modified. Can you see it? Why? In this, what we were doing, we were returning the reference. What ideally should be there to avoid this, so that the object cannot be modified? So what we need to do here is, in employee class, when we say get address, it should be
It should be a new address constructor, right?
yes, new address constructor we can say, but the thing is, like, we don't have any parameter, like with what value we are going to return. If I say new, then the values would be there, like uh, null and 0. Like, for example, if I say new address,
Yeah, obviously it will give the default values only, right?
yes, sorry,
No,
we are getting the right answer, like what we were looking for. Just a second. New address. Uh, then there is no issue, like we are not able to change, but ideally we should get the new values. Why we are not getting? So the last point was actually meant for this, like getter will return object, not the reference. So object we are returning, or one more thing we can do here, uh, we can return a deep copy of that object. So we'll learn about serialization, shallow copy, and deep copy very soon. Like, let me just check the syllabus when we will exception handling, multi-threading, synchronization, input and output. Yeah. So when we will learn serialization, we will see like what is deep copy and shallow copy. So if it were like address,
here shall we pass the parameterized constructor? Shall we make it a new address of parameterized constructor?
no, the concern basically is like this class is not immutable. This is mutable class, and employee is a immutable class. Then there might be issue, like if we return the reference, that means the object later on can be modified like we are doing. But if address class is let's say immutable, then there is no issue with that, because this setter functionality won't be there. Getting my point? We have to pass values only at the time of object creation. So that's why we are saying, if we do have any reference variable or associated object, then the getter should return the object, not the reference, like this. Okay, and one more thing that is very important, that is toString. So every class have a toString representation. Like if we don't have this one, so we will get something from its parent class, which is the object class. You can see we are getting p1.employee at the rate some number. What is that? So if we go on the on side or object class, which is, so we know this is the parent class of all the classes. Give me one moment, guys. Hello. So this is the parent class of all the classes, and if we go to toString method, this is the implementation. So what it says, get name of the class and append this at the rate and convert the hash code of the object into hash string and just return that. So that's why when we say e1, the default implementation we are getting is from this toString method. Now we have our own toString method here in this class, then obviously we are going to get from the child class. Okay, like this. So whenever we keep our object into system.out.println, so by default it calls its toString method. Like if we say like this is the same thing. Even we are not writing, then it's internally calling to its toString method. You can see. All right. Now one more thing that which is